date is September 12th, 1970. The occasion is the celebration of the Cherokee opening in 1893. We are in Enid, Oklahoma, interviewing for the Oklahoma Living Legends Library for Oklahoma Christian College, Oklahoma City. I am talking with Mr. W.C. Nelson. Mr. Nelson, when did you come to Oklahoma?
What?
When did you come to Oklahoma?
I established a home in 96.
Did you come over here during the run of 93?
Yes.
Where did you come from?
Butler County, Kansas.
Did you come with your parents?
Yes.
How old were you?
19.
Oh, you were a young man then. Were you old enough to homestead for yourself?
No. No, I was in the run.
Uh-huh.
And I drove a wagon and pulled a wagon from father and two brothers.
Mm-hmm.
And a boy was with me 2 years younger that drove a wagon and pulled one for his father and two uncles. Ed Hoare, his father, and two uncles, Con Neck Eakins.
Mm-hmm.
And we were, now maybe that's as far as all.
No, go ahead. How long were you at the starting line before the official day of the opening?
About 40 minutes.
Oh, then you weren't there for any length of time. Some of them were there 2 weeks, I understand.
Oh, at the starting line,
Yes.
we was there about a week.
Mm-hmm. Now, did you have to find a trail to follow, or was it complete? Tell me about that. So many people think that it was just a open area and all you did was just run across the line.
The trail went between Eagle Chief and some blackjacks. And to make it go straight through, you couldn't do it on account of so much blackjack timber.
Mm-hmm.
And so we followed the trail.
Now, did you have any difficulty of people bumping into one another?
No, we just sit there until they got pretty well along the way, and then we started out, followed up.
Mm-hmm. There were no accidents, in other words.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. How long did it take you to find the homestead that you wanted?
I bought a relinquish.
No. After you, the gun went off and everyone started rushing for the homestead, how long did it take you to find the piece of land that you wanted? Your father.
I expected it was a little less than 2 hours.
Oh, is that right?
Yes.
Did they have much trouble of two people claiming the same area?
No,
Not then.
no.
What was the first thing you did when the family found this homestead and you drove in your stake, and then what did you do?
Well, they had it surveyed and got their numbers. That went to Enid to register to learn about what time it'd take for them to file.
Mm-hmm.
And while they was going to register, there was a Prairie Fire come up. And Ed Hoare, 2 years younger than I, saw there was something that didn't look right. We got on some horses and run about a mile, and we'd see the blaze. We run back and took up the tent and put it in the wagon and the grub boxes and the blankets and everything, and and set out a fire ahead and drove up there and beat it out and drove in, and the fire run on around us.
Then you did put out the fire so it didn't come on your land.
Yes, it burned off everything except next to the spring creeks where there was green grass. It wouldn't burn.
Did your family bring down any cattle with them at this time?
No.
That came later.
Came later.
Well, after you established your legal claim to this property, what was the next thing you did?
Well, I farmed.
Did you build your
I built a frame house, 10 by 12. That is about the first thing I did after I bought the relinquish.
Now, we're getting a little ahead of ourselves. I think someone told me that you dug a well at the starting line. No?
At the place that we're supposed to stop at the destination that we were supposed to go to, and they would come and meet us. Some of them.
Well, you dug this well. What happened?
Well, in the first place, it's on Elm Creek, about 4 miles southwest of Lahoma. And it is about 12, 14 feet across the bottom of the creek bed. And on the bank, I saw some gravel, crawfish gravel, and it was moist. And I told Ed Hoare, the boys with me, there's water flows. We took a shovel and about 4 or 5 feet struck a big vein of water. And by that time there was a lot of them that camped there, same as we did, that had followed up their parents with wagons and all kind of vehicles. And so we tested the water, and it is all right except in mud. And we took a halter rope and a bucket, commenced watering the horses. They was awful thirsty. And everybody else that was camping there. And as soon as they see that we had some water and was watering the horses, they run up there and they grabbed the bucket and they just drink right out of that bucket that the horses was drinking in. They're that thirsty. And it watered. They was there all that evening and night until I went to sleep and drinking water.
Now, after you got your father settled on his claim, then what did you do? You went back to Kansas, didn't you?
Went back to Kansas.
What'd you do there?
I worked out on a ranch.
Until what?
Until I worked on that ranch and different things off and on until 96 and bought the relinquish.
And you had enough money saved to buy a relinquish.
Yes.
Where was the relinquish?
It was between Carrier and Goldry.
Did you remember the man who owned it previously? Do you know his name?
Yes, Will Lamar.
Were you married at this time?
No,
All right, now you have your land. What was the first thing that you did on your own land?
built a small house.
All right, this was a house you told me about previously.
Yes,
And you said it was a frame house?
yes,
Is that rather unusual in this part of the country?
yes it was.
Uh-huh. Where did you get the lumber?
Enid, 20 miles.
I see. All right, and then what was the next thing that you did after you finished the house?
I got a little cook stove. The name of it was Dandy, and it was a little dandy. It was a little dandy. I could cook a meal in 15 minutes. Make biscuits.
You did your own cooking?
I did.
Were you there by yourself, or was this friend of yours with you?
I was there alone.
And did you have any stock with you, or any cat?
Yes, I had some horses.
And with these, I suppose you broke the sod and started your
Yes.
farming.
Yes.
Remember how many horses you had?
4.
How many acres could you till in a day with your horses?
3 and 4 acres.
In one day?
In one day with a 16-inch plow.
Was it a steel plow?
Yes.
Steel blade?
It's a walking plow.
Well, you and Dandy made out pretty well as far as being fed well each day, and your horses, you started your farm there. What crops did you raise?
I raised wheat, oats, corn, cabbage corn.
And how long did you stay on this farm by yourself?
3 years.
And then you got married
Yes.
to Mrs. Nelson.
Yes.
Can you tell me something about your courtship? Where did you meet her?
I met her at my father's homestead about a year after Strip had opened.
I see. Was she there at as a visitor or?
Visitor.
Where was she from originally?
He must have been from Kansas because he made the run from
I kind of think they lived in
Kansas City.
This is your brother,
That is my father-in-law.
Father-in-law.
your father-in-law.
Mama's dad
Yes.
made the run.
And your wife,
Her father made the run, he said.
her father made the run also.
Yeah.
And
And then his oldest brother and her oldest sister were married.
then they met that way. I see. All right. We want to get this in proper order. During your courtship days, can you tell me some of the things that you did? What did young people do during that time?
Well, they'd have entertainment and parties.
Box socials?
Didn't have much room on the inside. They'd get out on the outside and play drop the handkerchief, skip Maloo, and had a good time.
Is that right?
Everybody was sociable.
Did you ever have like barn raising parties here, or harvesting where everyone would come over and help harvest a crop and then have a party afterwards?
No.
You didn't have that? All right. All right. Did your church play a big part in having parties and getting young people together?
Yes.
Can you tell me what church you belong to?
Yes.
All right. What was it?
Yeah, we're at it.
Where was I when? Alvarado was
Church.
where they had a church and a country store and community gatherings.
This was a small town then. Was it
Just
sort of small
country,
town?
Small country station.
How often did you come into Enid, or wasn't Enid the closest town to your homestead? Where did you get your supplies?
Enid, and they had country stores out there. One was named Coroma, the Scoldry now. It was a 3-mile country store.
But did you get into Enid very often, or did you want to come into Enid? Did you come into Enid very often?
Yes, I was all alone, and I done a lot of freighting. I hauled wheat for the neighbors. Lots of them didn't have a wagon fit to haul a big load of grain. And I was footloose. I could go to Enid and stay all night. And the neighbors wanted anything, I distributed as I come back on the road.
Mhm. Now, this was before you were married.
Yes.
It was a little different after you got married, though.
Yes, different. Well, I'm afraid to stay alone after dark.
All right. How large a family did you have?
7 children.
Tell me their names.
Lowell, Hazel, Dallas, Earl, John, and Roy, and Okla.
Yes, we have your daughter sitting here, and you almost forgot her. All right.
They're all born in the same house.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Did you have a doctor in the area there, or
Yes,
were they
yes.
delivered by midwife?
We always had a doctor.
You always had a doctor.
Local doctor, yes.
Uh-huh. They made house calls then.
Yes,
Well, you had a pretty good-sized family to help you run the farm then, didn't you?
yes,
Were they good workers?
yes, they're good workers.
Did any of them go into farming after they
All
got
of
older?
them.
Every one of them.
Well, I say John.
Yeah, he owns 2 farms.
John worked for the government neighborhood of 40 years.
I see. Was there a school near so that the children could go to the school? Was there a school near your
Yes.
farm?
Yes, I was on the board when the first school started.
Uh-huh.
All 30 years.
Was it a one-room school where all grades
Yes.
were in one?
One room.
Can you tell me how many youngsters would be going to the school at one time? Do you have any idea?
All the start was about 12, 16, and it got up to a neighborhood of 40.
In all grades.
Yes,
And the teacher did very well with them. You got a good education.
yes.
Well, how long did you farm?
I farmed from 96 till 11 years ago.
11 years ago. And then you moved into Enid?
96. Must have been the neighborhood of 55 years.
Mm-hmm. All right. Do you remember of any humorous things that happened that you could relate to us, either with your family or with the run or with living out in the country?
Made the run, and I and Ed Hoare located the place that told us to southwest of Oklahoma. We started out the next morning at sunup, and we figured it was about 17 or 18 miles, as near as we could tell, where they'd staked their claim. And we got lost. And about 11 o'clock we discovered we was inside of Enid. We could see the tents. We must have been 3 or 4 or 5 miles west of Enid. So we knew about what the numbers should be and where they're located and what they was getting there or surveying. Figured we was just as far away at 11 o'clock as it was sunup when we started the place that we was going. So it was getting almost sundown when we found them located out there, hungry and thirsty.
What were you doing, going around circles?
No, we went straight, pretty straight.
Uh-huh.
My brother and Connick, and they had saddle horses. We was still pulling the extra wagon with the 4 wagons with 2 teams. And they was getting pretty well fagged out. And either my brother or Connick would get on one of them saddle horses, and we'd kind of keep it going the direction they went, and see if they could locate anything that they had discovered it the day before. And finally they did, and we found a way in there. The grub boxes and sure made the pancakes
thing. What would a typical dinner be like for a homesteader?
Well, most generally meat and boiled beans and things of that kind. One time when we was going just before the strip was open, we was going from Enid west. We come across a country store in the Blackjacks named Lately, and there was a nigger running that store. We could see everything he had on the shelves. We'd look around and ask for something. He'd say, "I'm just out of that." We'd call something else and say, "I'm just out of that too, gentlemen. It'll be in on the wagon." The wagon would go to the railroad and bring it in ever so often. So we bought 3 buckets of gel, plum gel, 3 gallons of the bucket, and had that sloped from the bottom up, and there was a little board, paddle board there that you pull out, and dip in to get your plum gel, and shut it back up. So that helped us out wonderful.
But he wouldn't let you have anything off his shelves.
The store?
Yes.
Not very much. Quite a bit too. It's a post office there. It's old log house.
Did you ever have any difficulty with the outlaws or the Indians?
No,
They left you alone.
no, there wasn't. They was pretty peaceful in there.
You and Mrs. Nelson celebrated, what was your last wedding anniversary you celebrated?
60.
67. 67.
Well, 67.
67 years you lived together.
Yes.
Huh?
Oh, I couldn't have made a better selection of a wife than she was.
Well, I think that's marvelous. What did you think of Oklahoma being accepted as one of the states in 1907? Did this have any effect on your thinking about your living here?
No,
You weren't interested in politics.
no.
And did you by chance happen to be here in, no, it was in Guthrie where they had the wedding of the cowboy and the Indian, yes. And you didn't attend that. That was
No.
too far away.
No.
How many grandchildren do you have?
More grandchildren than I had. Great-grandchildren than I had grandchildren. And last I counted, I had 16 grandchildren.
16 grandchildren. But you had, the last birthday party you had, how many came? Do you remember? 53? And how old are you now, Mr. Nelson?
96.
96. I wouldn't believe it. I think it's marvelous. We ought to all have your secret. What's your ambition right now, Mr. Nelson?
Oh, rest, eat, and sleep. Listen to the television.
I heard you had an ambition to live to be what? 105? I'm sure you're going to make it. Thank you very much for the interview. It was very nice.